Hi everyone, welcome back to the Pro MMA Betting Podcast. We've had a couple of weeks off. We had a nice week off from the UFC. I believe there's now 12 consecutive UFC, so it's going to be full on for the next 12 weeks. The podcast is going to be back weekly, breaking down every UFC show. We're going to talk about UFC China, break it down. It's going to be pretty quick breakdowns. It's quite a weak card. I'm not in love with it from a betting angle. A lot of unknown fighters, hard to get a read on a lot of the fighters, so we'll skim through it pretty quickly. As always, just want to recap on what's happened since we last done the podcast with regards to our betting results. So we had UFC 241. We hit 3 out of 4 bets on there. We took home 1.3 units profit. I'll take, even if it's small profit, I'll take it any day over a loss. We then had a 1 unit bet on the Dana White Contender Series. We had Jamal Pogues to beat Marcus Brigago. That hit, so that gives us 0.7 units profit. So between that and UFC 241, about 2 units profit. Had a couple of bets at the weekend. They weren't official tipped bets. I put them on Twitter. Just letting you guys know what I was betting. As I say, it wasn't an official bet, so it's not been tracked, but sometimes I do give out free bets on Twitter, so keep an eye on the Twitter page at Pro MMA Betting. I put a unit on Sergey Kovalev in the boxing to beat Anthony Yarde, and I also threw just under a unit on Yaroslav Amosov in Bellator. As I said, neither were official picks, neither are tracked. Transparency is key here, but I did post up what I was betting before the event, just to say I had a small play on these 2 bets, and they both came in. So had a nice little bit of profit since we last done the podcast. And back to business as usual moving forward with, as I said, I think it's 12 consecutive UFCs. Guys, I'm also doing a discounted offer. It expires on Saturday, so you've got until UFC China. I'm offering 20% off any annual memberships. So it works out, if it's in sterling, annual membership is £350 until Saturday. We're offering it for £280. In dollars, that works out $352, but we're happy to do it for $350. I haven't coded the payment system, so if you're interested, DM me or hit us an email, info@prommmabetting.com, and you can just pay direct through PayPal for the reduced amount. I don't believe it's a lot of money, guys, for an annual membership. When you sign up with us, what I want you to think of it as an investment, not betting. I believe this is an investment. It's the way I treat it. Here in the UK, for example, you can put money in a savings account for, say, a year. The best return you get on your money from a bank is about 1.5% at the moment. It's an absolute joke. No way I'm putting my money into a bank to earn that paltry interest. I believe betting is my return on investment, and I get a way higher return on investment than banks are paying me. So I'm happily to invest my money into sports betting. Predominantly, pretty much is all MMA and boxing. Think of it as a long-term investment, guys. There is variance, just like investing in the stock market. There are going to be some peaks and troughs, but overall, over the course of a year, you are going to make money. All of our bets are third-party tracked. You can see direct links to all the trackers below this video. If you go to prommabetting.com, all the links are visible there on the homepage, so you can see everything is third-party tracked. Very, very transparent. We also post all of our bet slips and stakes. I believe if I'm asking for money from the public for betting tips, I need to show you that I'm a good size bettor. I don't believe in asking for money for tips when your unit size is less than what I'm asking for someone for a monthly membership or a weekly membership. I think that's ludicrous. I think you should have shown that you can build up a sizable bankroll before you start turning into a tipster. So all of our bet slips and stakes, which is key, because you do get some other tipsters that they will show up their bet slips, but they barely any of them show their stakes. So if you've got $10 unit sizes and you're asking someone for, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 dollars a month to be a member, I think that's ridiculous. Your unit size is paltry. Why haven't you been able to build a substantial bankroll? That's the question I ask. So all of our bets are third party track, guys. All of the bet slips are posted along with stakes, and we like to verify we are what we say we are, the world's highest stakes MMA tipsters. I don't see anyone else putting out the bet slips the way we do, along with the stake sizes that we're putting out there. Just going back to the annual membership, so 20% off until Saturday, £280 or $350 for the year. It's absolute peanuts, guys. If we break it down weekly, we're asking for just over £5 a week. I mean, come on, you're going to make that money back and then some easily. If you break it down equivalent to UFC events, there's normally about 40, works out about £7 a week. Guys, come on, you're going to make that money back. Go and look at our stats. If you're £100 per unit better, since January 2019, you are up £9,600. You've easily covered your annual membership and you're still up over £9,300 for the year. No brainer in my opinion. Hours of research goes into this for every UFC, every show that we put a bet on. There's so much research that goes into it. So why not take advantage of that 20% off? It's a great return on investment. As I said, think of it as a long-term investment. No, this isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. Take that out of your mind completely. They don't exist, guys. If it sounds too good to be true, it's because it is. This is a long-term investment, slow cooking, but we are going to make you money. And as I've said time and time again on here, we're not one of these tipsters that are going to recommend you risk 20, 30, 40, even 50 units per UFC. Absolute bankroll suicide. One bad event, you've wiped out possibly half your bankroll, a couple of bad events in a row, and it can happen to the best of them. High variance sport MMA, you just don't know what's going to happen. You've wiped out your bankroll. So generally we never kind of risk more than 10 units, pretty much the most that we'll risk on an event. So you're not going to have massive winning nights with us in terms of kind of 20, 30 units, but you are going to grind away and you're going to win slowly but surely. So if you're going to come and be a member with us, guys, you've got to take the long-term approach. I don't want anyone coming who's short-sighted, who's expecting, as I said, a get-rich-quick scheme. It doesn't happen. You've got to take the long-term approach, guys. A lot of effort goes into this, as I said, with the research. We do the weekly podcast, the live betting tips. I stay up for every UFC. I'm in the UK. Pretty much every UFC starts here at midnight and finishes at 5 a.m, 6 a.m. I stay up all through the night, every UFC, giving live betting tips. That's the freest money you're ever going to find, guys. If you've got access to live betting, jump on the bandwagon. Free money with live betting. Check out the live betting tracker. Been tracking it since January, up ridiculous amounts of money. Jump on board. We're on Discord, private chat room. Great camaraderie, a lot of long-term members on there, great fun, and we make money throughout the night. What's better than sitting there making money while you're watching the sport you love? So discounted offer runs until Saturday. After that it reverts back to normal. Normally it's $440 for the year or £350, but 20% off until Saturday. Jump on board. £5 a week it works out, guys. You're going to make that money back easily. Most people who sign up for the membership, their unit size tends to be between £50 to £100 or $50 to $100 per unit. Guys, you can make it back in one event for the yearly membership. That's how low the amount is. So hit the like button, please, guys, on the YouTube channel. Follow us at Pro MMA Betting. Website prommabetting.com. All the third-party trackers are on the website. On the homepage, you'll see the links, and there's direct links to all of them below this video. So let's move on. Let's talk about UFC China. Quickly work our way through the card. See where we can find value for this week. As I say, I tried to do this podcast different to all the others. I tried to take it from more of a betting angle, looking at the betting odds, etc. So going to continue with that theme. Want to make it slightly different, because I know there's a lot of YouTubers out there doing the breakdown videos. So let's keep it a bit different as we have been, and we'll start from bottom to top. First fight of the night, guys. I haven't even taped it. I'll be completely honest with you. I looked at the guys' records. It's not the kind of fight I'm going to be risking money on. Especially the lines are. It's basically a pick 'em fight line-wise. I know one of them did shoot up as a big favourite. I think there was a lot of early line manipulation going on with regards to 5 dimes. So by the time I got the lines, they'd all adjusted accordingly and were correct. I can't pick 'em fight. As I said, I looked at the records. I've spoken to a few people that have taped it, and it's definitely not the kind of fight that I will be betting on, risking money on. You know, I'm a 4-figure better. There's no way I'm risking like 4 figures on a fight such as that. So past fight for me. I can't offer any intel, guys, because I haven't taped it. Next fight is a women's fight in the Bantamweight division. We got Rosa taking on Laura Procopio. Sorry, guys, but another easy pass for me. I done tape on this a couple of weeks ago, or tried to, and I'm sure for Lara I could only find the fight she won in the first round with an armbar. There's just no tape on it. I can't make an informed decision. I'm not risking money when there's no tape. I'm not blind betting. It's just nuts, blind betting. You know, some people do it. You know, and when your stakes are a lot smaller, you know, you lose a tenner, you lose 20 quid. It doesn't mean as much. But you know, I take this game serious. This is my job. I've got people that I'm responsible for who have paid me money to supply them with tips. It's just the kind of fight. I tried to find the tape. There was just no recent tape. I'm trying to recall if I could find tape on Rosa. I know a Bagato fight's available because I've seen that before. But I even think with her there was a distinct lack of tape. But even if there was tape on her, if there's not tape on her opponent, still I can't bet it. So again, for me, a complete pass, guys. Sorry. Right, Damir Ismagulov versus Thiago Moises. This is a really good fight. Really looking forward to this one. Now, the early line on this was absolutely insane. Moises, or Ismagulov, was minus 400, which was absolutely nuts. I couldn't get the plus 300 on Moises. I think when the lines actually adjusted and the kind of line manipulation was taken away and the other books opened the lines, I think you probably could have got plus 200 on Moises, but I didn't buy it. Then I saw the line go back up to minus 400. I just didn't know where the line was going to settle, but ultimately it's come right down, and rightly so. Demir's minus 170 now, which I'd say is much more accurate. I do slightly favour him here, but the problem with Demir is, now I taped him thoroughly when he made his UFC debut because I bet him there. And I just had a little recap on him for this fight. I watched both his UFC fights, and I watched his fight before his UFC debut. And he's very good. He's very good technically. He's very well rounded. Seems to have very good cardio. Isn't the biggest finisher though. Not the biggest puncher. And he kind of just does enough to win. It's like there's another gear he could go up, but it doesn't. It's like he kind of fights down to the level of opponent. Thiago Moises is a stern test, easily his toughest test in the UFC, and without knowing all of his pre-UFC opponents, now he's fought to a good standard outside of the UFC, you could maybe make the argument Moises is the toughest test of his career. Moises he's only 24, so he should be improving. He's an American top team who are the best team on the planet. He looked solid in his last fight. He's got a bad penchant for backing up, and that was still apparent in his last fight. Backs up into the fence. It's a bad habit he needs to try and lose ASAP. He's got to work on his circling and angling off. But Demir he isn't like a pressure type of fighter, so I don't know if that's something he can take advantage of. He does seem to fight intelligently though. For instance, the Joe Alvarez fight, didn't bother with risking in the takedowns. Alvarez, clearly from looking at his record, dangerous off his back, just kept the fight standing and easily outstruck him. Whereas the fight before, against a guy that had a striking background, he wrestled. So I think he's quite intelligent with how he fights. I do favour him here, but I do see this being a close fight. I do see it going the distance. I know the fight to go the distance was at -200. Shot up now to -245. I think -200 has some value. -245 when you're betting on a fight in MMA going 15 minutes, it can get a bit sweaty. So I do like -200. I mean, if you can get that, there's not much difference between that and Demir's money line. I think I'd rather just pay the extra 0.3 points because I do see this being a close fight. I do think Demir's going to edge it, but if you got Moises at +300, even +250, even +200, good luck to you. I would have taken it if I could have got on board. That from +300 is absolutely nuts. I definitely see this being a close fight. I can definitely see it being a 29-28. I can see it being a split decision. But I do like Demir, but he just needs to kind of move. It's like there's another level that he can move up. Let's see if he has got that other level to move up. Let's see if he can stop kind of fighting down to his level. Although Thiago is closer, way higher level than his first two UFC opponents. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to really see where Demir's at now. But I do favour him to win a decision here. But really good fight, and good luck to anyone that got that insane dog price on Thiago Moises. Zhang versus Khadis Ibrahimov. I was a bit disappointed with the Khadis tape. I was expecting him to be better. He's only young, so he could be improving, but he's very reckless on the feet. I was expecting his stand-up to be a lot more polished than it is. He's real reckless. He's got some really good hip throws, but his top control is lacking in the fights I watched. The guys he was taking down were getting up pretty quickly. He did. Now, we haven't really seen his full game for a year because his last fight was in March. He gets a quick KO from the crucifix position in round 1. It only lasted a couple of minutes, so we've not seen his full game really since the Dmitry Mikyutsa fight in M1 Challenge 96, which was back in August, so a year ago. That went to almost 2 rounds, so you kind of got to see his full game there. So we've not seen it for a year, so he could have improved, because against Rafael he took him down off of a caught kick, and he did show way better top control. He kept him grounded, moved to side control, got the crucifix and pounded him out. But I mean, I'm not too familiar with Rafael, but looking at his record, he does look like he's kind of a striker solely. So I don't want to read too much into him keeping him down, because the guy might have very limited ground game. But from the tape available, from the fights that have gone longer, the top control definitely an issue for him. In one fight he did slow down as well. I think it was the Giga fight where Giga actually got disqualified because he kept grabbing the rope. But Khadis was taken over in round 3 though, so it's I can't remember if Giga started to slow or whether he fought through it well, but there was definitely a little cardio concern, because I remember in that fight it definitely looked like he was slowing down early on. Jung is a kind of typical Korean fighter. He seems tough, he's got decent stand-up. He's going to want to keep this on the feet, and I think he might have the edge on the feet. He's a Korean, he'll be happy in a brawl. That's what he needs to do, keep this fight standing, try and avoid them hip throws. Khadis doesn't really have any takedowns in open space. The only open space takedown I've seen him go for, he goes for a single leg, which is really hard to finish in MMA, a single leg. It's quite easy to defend. And I mean, Young's takedown defense definitely isn't impenetrable. I watched a few of his fights and he did get taken down a number of times, but he was getting back to his feet really quickly. He does give his back though. Whether Khadis has got the kind of grappling style where he can jump on that back and take advantage of that, I don't know. But this is definitely an interesting fight. The line was definitely way too high, because I did see Khadis up at practically minus 400 at one point. It's come down to minus 270 now, which I still think is too high, because I think there's a lot of question marks around Khadis. As a better, look, I do favour Khadis. If you line these two even money, I'd pick Khadis. I might even be tempted to bet him, but the comeback on Jung is still plus 230. And as I say, I treat this as a betting podcast, guys, and there's unknowns here because Jung, this is a big step up for him. Khadis, has he improved over that 12-month period? Was that last fight a sign that he has made improvements? He is only 24, but as a better, I think the value is with Jung, so I'm going to pick Jung. I don't necessarily think he's going to win this fight. As I said, you give me a pick'em line, I'd go with Khadis, or even Khadis anywhere in the minus 100 territory, between minus 100 minus 200, but he's not. He's minus 270. Jung is plus 230. He's got a path to victory here. I think he can bring Khadis into a brawl. Khadis seems to like a brawl. I don't like his striking, and his top control hasn't looked great, and his takedowns outside the single leg are hip throws. Now, he looks really, really good at them, but just historically in MMA, hip throws don't really work. But Jung, if he's a lower level fighter, they might work against him. So it's hard to have a proper read, but I definitely am not paying the juice on Khadis. If anything, I think Jung has value. Now, don't go nuts betting Jung, guys. I'm not saying it's a 5-unit max play, but if you don't mind risking half a unit, maybe a unit, I definitely think there's a value on betting Jung there. I'm going to pick him purely based on the odds, even though my gut says Khadis is probably going to win the fight, but those lines are way too wide. So as I say, if I'm going to bet someone, I have to believe they can win, and I do believe Jung can win. So I will pick him here based on them odds of plus 230. By the way, guys, I don't know if this fight order is correct. I'm just going off Tapology. I'm just working my way through there. Next up, we've got Soukhamthath taking on Mudaerji. Another one I haven't taped, guys. I remember Sue from his UFC debut against Louis Smolka, and he looked absolutely terrible. I believe he's more of a striker, but I just can't risk money on Soukhamthath. He's not a guy that I can trust one iota. I've bet against him successfully a few times. I bet Sean O'Malley over him. I've parlayed Montel Jackson up against him as well. He's just not someone that I fancy risking my money on. He was like about minus 250, and he's down at minus 175 now. I don't know if it's worth a look or not. Sue, I know, because I remember Sue before he fought Smoker, and everyone was saying he's got a really good striking game, but I mean, is Soukhamthath going to give him the fight he wants on the feet? I mean, probably does. Probably just I've not taped it, as I say. I just don't trust Soukhamthath as a favourite, and I remember this guy did not look good against Louis Smolka. So a pass fight for me, guys. Sorry, another one I'm passing on, but I'm not wasting my time watching tape on real low level fights with guys with bad fight IQ when the lines are just wide. I can't see myself wanting to bet Sue here, and Soukhamthath, I know I'm not betting Soukhamthath as a minus 175 favourite. So pass fight for me. I might come back to it though if the line does drop a bit more, because I know Soukhamthath was a bigger favourite. I might look into it, but at the moment I'm not bothering with that fight. Anthony Hernandez taking on Yong Park. Interesting fight, this one. Hernandez was on the Dana White Contender Series, blasted through Jordan Wright. He had a 5-round decision win over Brendan Allen. Fought at a high pace for 5 rounds. Showed really good cardio, good grappling. Showed some decent takedowns. He has decent hands. He showed against Allen and Perez he can really push forward in combinations, back you up, put you on the fence, where he normally looks for the takedown. Against Perez, I think he was a bit worried because Perez has a dangerous submission game, so he didn't really look for the takedown there. But he had a decent first round. But but then ultimately got hurt with a body kick in round 2, and it allowed Perez to snatch up the submission. But I think Hernandez is a decent fighter. It's a little bit soft and in the body, and that showed against Perez when he hit him with that body kick. It took the wind out of his sails, and he quickly snatched up the submission. He's going to be the bigger guy physically than Park. Park has fought at welterweight before. This fight's at middleweight. Park, he's got solid hands. Again, another typical kind of Korean fighter, aggressive, decent hands. I'm just not sure if he excels anywhere though. I watched his last, I couldn't find his last fight I don't think, but I watched the Vake fight and the Spar fight, and they're not the greatest competition he was facing, but did what you'd expect him to do. He's definitely got a weakness with his takedown defence. Most people seem to be able to take him down, but he does shoot back up to his feet pretty quickly. But Hernandez is a pretty solid grappler, so this fight's going to be interesting. I can't play Hernandez at... Oh, he's dropped down. He's minus 185 now. I thought he was about minus 230. It's still a bit too high for me. There's just a lot of unknowns here. I don't have a full read on Hernandez. Is he going to be content to stand with Park? Is he going to mix in takedowns? And if he does, can he keep Park down? It's just hard to know how good Park's get-ups are because he just hasn't fought the best competition. So, but his takedown defence is definitely a bit leaky. But he's got good hands. He's as I said, typical Korean. He's happy to throw down. He'll stand there in the pocket. He won't close his eyes. He won't duck away. He'll keep his eyes open. He'll see the shots coming, and it allows him to counter back really well. But as I said, it's been against lesser competition. Hernandez is a step up for him. So it's going to be interesting how this one plays out. I do lean Hernandez. I'm possibly interested in looking at him for a bet if the line drops more. But minus 185, it's still a pass fight for me because of the unknowns. This is why cards like this are just dodgy for betting, guys, because you have to assume a lot of things. That's why them fights that I passed on, it's just, you're making assumptions. There's a lack of tape, lack of fight IQ, low quality, the quality of opponents they faced. If they're poor quality, it might make them look better than they are. And often as well, you find people make UFC debuts, they seem to make a quantum leap and look a lot better in the UFC. So it's just hard. I find it really hard as a bettor, and I've been burnt. This is what I've learned through trial and error. It's just dodgy betting on fights like that, and this is another one. So I do lean Hernandez here, probably by decision. But yeah, is he going to come out and look to ground Park? And if he does, can he keep him down on the feet? Could be competitive on the feet, so I'll go with Hernandez, but at that price I will pass. Actually, fight goes to decision is plus 135. It could be a bit sweaty because this could be a bit of a brawl, but I think there's a little bit of value on that fight to go to a decision. This Tapology fight order is definitely wrong because I'm pretty sure Kenan Song's on the main card, but next on the fight order on Tapology is Kenan Song taking on Derrick Krantz. That's another fight, guys, that I haven't really delved too deep into. I just know I'm not betting on Kenan Song. It's a pick-em fight, so odds-wise I just don't see any value on either guy. I'm not overly sold on Kenan Song. Hard guy for me to really get a full read on. He's fought lower level guys. He had a quick win over Bobby Nash, then he fought Hector Aldana, coming off a loss to Alex Morono, and then Derrick Krantz made his UFC debut, short notice against Luke, had a strong first few minutes but ultimately got stopped. And he's a low level guy as well. It's just cards like this, as I've said already, guys, are just tough for betting. You've got to be real careful. It's a pick'em line. I'm not even making a prediction, guys, because I haven't taped it. It's not a fight I'm interested in risking money on. It's certainly not a fight I'd recommend members bet on. Low level MMA, and there's unknowns. So I just don't know how good Kenan Song is. I don't know how good Derrick Krantz is either. There is some tape available of him pre-UFC, but he's got a bit of a sketchy record. Like I think he's like 31-12 or something. So the guy's been beaten a lot. So pass fight for me. I just went to Wikipedia actually, and the fight order that I've been going for actually does look correct, according to Wikipedia anyway. According to Wikipedia, we've got a 5-fight main card, Let's see if Tapology supports that as well. I thought it'd be 4. Normally it's 4 fights, isn't it? It's 4 or 6, not normally 5. But yeah, Tapology is saying 5 fights on the main card as well. So next fight is Yanan Wu taking on Mizuki Inoue. Hard fight to get a read on this one. Yanan Wu is not great, but she is a lot bigger than Inoue. She's fought up at 135 before. This is down at 125. She fought Laura Muller at 125. She fought in her UFC debut against Gina Mazzani at 135. Inoue, as far as I'm aware, is her first fight at 125. I watched a couple of her fights. She's not a big 115er, so there's going to be considerable size difference here. Inoue is definitely the more technical fighter, but I think the physicality of Wu could be an issue for her here. I don't know if she's going to be able to get her down to the floor or not. I've done taping it. I just don't know how anyone can have an informed decision on this. Haven't seen Inoue take on someone as big as Wu, but at the same time, Wu just isn't that great. She's got that win over Muller, pulled out a nice armbar from the bottom after being taken down off a caught kick, but she got basically out-wrestled by Gina Mazzani in her debut. But size counts, is why we've got weight divisions, guys, and Wu's only 23 as well, so there's room there for her to be improving. And Inoue's been around for a long time. She's fought some good girls, but I don't know why she's agreed to fight at 125, to be honest. The split decision loss to Jandiroba is very misleading. Jandiroba won, I think, every round. Maybe there was an argument one round she didn't win. No idea how that was a split decision. And then she's coming off a win over Vivian Pereira, where she got a nice takedown in round 1. Then I think it was round 2 she just stood for the whole round. And then round 3 did she end up getting on top again, but she did have some takedowns easily stuffed. I'm going to go with Wu here, guys. I just got a feeling the physicality is just going to be too much. I think Inoue's probably going to be forced to stand, and I just think Wu's aggressiveness and size is going to carry her to the win here. Wu's up at plus 125 now as well. Right, goes to a decision, minus 275. Yes, I that. Look, there's a lot of assumptions to be made here, but in terms of the line, I think there is a bit of value on Wu at plus 125. I'd be intrigued to hold out and see if that goes a little bit higher, because last time I looked, I think Inoue was maybe minus 120. So some money's come in on Inoue here, but it is low level and assumptions are being made. So is plus 125 enough for me to risk some money? Maybe not. I'd maybe need a bit higher. So tread carefully with that one, guys. But I personally am not betting Inoue there just due to the size difference. It could be a problem. Right, late replacement. We've got Zhenhong taking on Movsar Evloev. This is actually a rematch. Evloev faced him in, I think it was his 3rd professional fight. It was early in Zhenhong's UFC career, MMA career. I think he was 6-2 at the time. Yeah, I expect a kind of repeat fight. He kind of got wrestle fucked in the first fight, and it was, as I said, Evloev was, I think he was only like 20 or 21, 3rd pro fight. They fought, it was, the ring was covered, but they fought in the hills as they do out there in, wherever in Russia the fight was, and it was pissing down with rain, so must have affected the floor. The rain must have been getting blown onto the floor. You saw there was a couple of slips and that, so it's not ideal conditions to be fighting in. But I will go with Evloev there to win. Probably another decision, but wouldn't shock me if he can put Zhenhong away this time. He's going to look to wrestle him. He's going to be all over him on the mat. I think a lot of it depends on how much risk Zhenhong takes with regards to getting back to his feet and giving his back up and so forth. But I definitely go with Evloev there. He's a massive favourite. He was I think he opened at minus 270, which seems a little bit crazy. He was sitting at minus 500 yesterday, but I noticed this morning he shot up to minus 700, which he's sitting at now. So Yeah, there's not really any value there, guys. Fight to go to a decision. Have we got that line? -175. Yeah, pass on that. So yeah, but Evloev for me all day there. Next, the men's bantamweight division. We've got Kai Kara-France taking on Mark De La Rosa. So this is down at 125. De La Rosa, he belongs at 125. He's not got a place at 135. Most of his UFC fights have been at 135. I think he took, was the Perez fight short notice or the Joey Sanchez? I think one of them was short notice. Tim Elliott was definitely short notice. He's had a full camp for this one though, and he's definitely at the weight class he needs to be at. I've bet Kai Kara-France in his first 2 UFC fights, and yesterday I saw the line drop to -200. So I actually put a blind bet on Kai Kara-France. I've done the tape this morning, and I don't like him at that price. I'm going to actually buy out of it. I think this is going to be a pretty close fight. What I can't get a read on is now both guys prefer to be on the front foot, or at least controlling the octagon. They're not as effective being backed up, and I'm just not sure who's going to be able to control the octagon here, and I think that probably determines who wins the fight. Kai Kara-France's stand-up is probably a little bit sharper. De La Rosa, he likes to be on the front foot. He'll throw punches in bunches, but he can tend to fight in bursts as opposed to a kind of constant stream of volume, which is backed up when you look at the stats. He's at something like 2.5 strikes landed per minute, and Kai Kara-France is up at almost 5. But if he can push Kai Kara-France back and dictate the octagon, then he's going to make the fight a lot more competitive than it would perhaps be if Kai Kara-France is the one that's dictating the octagon. Now Kai Kara is hittable, and De La Rosa isn't afraid of being hit. I think he's got a better chin. We did see Kai Kara get dropped in his UFC debut against Garcia. He's got a couple of KO losses, but they're really early in his career, so I don't want to read too much into them. But Rosa seems really comfortable kind of in the pocket, exchanging and taking shots, but he is hittable. But then, as I said, so is Kai Kara-France. De La Rosa had no chance against Alex Perez. Perez is a massive bantamweight, big size advantage, and he was always going to be controlling the octagon there, dictating whether he wanted to be on the front foot or not. And we know Perez likes to be on the front foot. Rosa just couldn't get anything going, and then he had the takedowns in his back pocket that he could hit at will. So I don't really want to read too much into that performance. I bet Perez there. I got him at about -250. I think he was at for a little while, if I remember rightly, and it was just an easy win for him. The fights to look at more are the Garcia and Sanchez fight. The Tim Elliott fight was a grappling heavy affair. I don't expect that to be the case here. Mark De La Rosa is a BJJ black belt, seems to have a good ground game, albeit it doesn't seem great off his back, but I don't expect to see him here. His takedowns aren't great though. I think he will struggle to get Kai Kara-France down, and Kai Kara does scramble really well, so I do expect this to be a stand-up fight, and I think the winner is going to be the person that kind of holds the centre of the octagon and can implement their will more so. So it's quite hard to get a read on it, for me personally anyway. So at current lines I can't. As I said, I did bet France blind, but I'm going to be buying out. -235 is sitting at. I think if you can get De La Rosa at like near enough +200, I don't see why that's a bad bet. I think you could definitely take a punt there. If you like Kai Kara-France, I think a better bet is fight goes to a decision at -190. The price is 0.4 points cheaper than France's money line, and I do struggle to see a finish here. De La Rosa seems to have a solid chin. He's never been KO'd, and in the same token, De La Rosa doesn't seem to have much power. He's got one KO win, and Kai Kara-France, he's not been KO'd for many years. I think it's like 6-7 years back when he was like 18, 19, and like literally his first like 2 or 3 fights he suffered. I think it was back-to-back KO losses. I don't know whether they were kind of out cold KOs or whether they were the technical knockouts. So I don't think there's any reason really to doubt his chin too much. He did get dropped by Garcia, but he popped straight back up. I don't think he was really hurt. So for me personally, I think the value there is, especially if you like France, is the fight goes to his decision. but I think a small bet on De La Rosa at plus 200 is definitely warranted. So I think this is going to be a close fight. I'm going to, as I say, if I think there's value on a line, I will always pick that particular person to win, and De La Rosa is at plus 195 at the moment, so I'm going to pick him to win a very close decision. But it's going to be a nip and tuck, back and forth kind of fight, so I'm not overly confident. But as I say, guys, a betting podcast, we look at the odds where we think there's value. I think there is value there. If you don't like De La Rosa, but you do like Kai Kara France, I personally think fight goes to a decision is the better play. Co-main event, probably, well, I don't know, maybe the main event, but I was going to say this is the best fight on the card, or the one I'm looking forward to the most, but the top two fights, definitely the two I'm looking forward to the most. So we've got Zaleski taking on Jingliang. I mean, what we're all hoping for is this is going to be on the feet for as long as it lasts. Two guys that I guess you could call them technical brawlers. They're not scared to throw down. Neither have ever been stopped. Now, Lee has been dropped a number of times. We saw Zaleski get hurt as well in one of these fights. I think it was against Max Griffin. But on the whole, neither have ever been KO'd. And we're talking combined over 40 professional MMA fights. So these guys are tough as they come, hard to finish. Real interesting fight here. Now, Zaleski, he's got some grappling in his back pocket. We saw him implement it in his last fight against Curtis Millender, but Curtis Millender's takedown defence, as we know, is just awful. He had that great win over Sean Strickland with the spinning hook kick and follow-up punches, and good solid win over Max Griffin. Had him badly hurt. Had a competitive fight with Lyman Good. Jingliang, he's coming off a win via body kick over David Zawada. Before that, he beat Daichi Abe in a decision, and before that, lost to Jake Matthews. Kind of struggled a little bit with Jake Matthews' size and power in that fight. So I don't think Zaleski's going to have much joy here with his grappling. I think Lee's takedown defence is decent. I remember looking into it quite deeply for the Jake Matthews fight, and his takedown defence is, I think it's either improved or it's always been solid, but I just don't see Zaleski really getting the grappling going here. I think it's going to be a stand-up fight, and it kind of comes down to, I mean, neither have been KO'd, so I definitely don't like the inside the distance line. I think it's too high. I mean, it's probably going to be a brawl. Probably isn't going to go to a decision, but I think it's come down a bit actually. Fight doesn't go to a decision is now minus 165. Yeah, it was up at minus 245 last time I looked. So I think that's quite accurate where it's at currently. Fight goes to a decision plus 125. But it'll take a brave man to bet the fight to go to a decision, because I'd be shocked if there's not a number of hairy moments along the way. Zaleski's up at basically minus 300, which I think that's too high. I definitely think that's too high. Jingliang is more than capable on the feet. He can crack. He's got some good leg kicks. I mean, I can see why Zaleski is the favourite and why he's favoured, but I do think that line is just too wide. It's going to be really interesting to see how is Lee going to kind of get himself dragged into a brawl, or will he try and use his leg kicks from the outside? Zaleski's got 2 inches of reach. They're a similar height. Strikes landed per minute. Jingliang's up at 5. Zaleski's just over 4. Strikes absorbed. Jingliang 3.5. Zaleski basically 3. So they're quite similar in that respect. I mean, it could come down to who drops first. And Zaleski, you look at his UFC career, he's got a couple of knockouts. He stopped Amari Akhmedov in the 3rd round. That's quite late. Amari gassed. But, Sean Strickland spinning hook kick, it's quite low percentage. And then he faced a well overmatched Luigi Vendramini. So, he did have Max Griffin hurt though multiple times, so he has got power. And Jingliang, I mean, he's not really been stopping people, Lee, has he? I mean, he took out Bobby Nash, I remember, but Frank Camacho went to a decision. Stopped Zakotov, doesn't really mean much. HEA, but he stopped, but decisioned, but did have him hurt in that fight. We're saying that he did stop Zawada as well. It was a body shot. That they've both got power. I was trying to find an angle where perhaps who's got more power. Maybe Lee's chin is a little bit shakier. We have seen him drop numerous times, but it's a hard fight to call. This is in China as well, so Lee's fighting at home. The line's too wide for me, whatever way you shake it, and it almost minus 300. Jingliang plus 245. Look, I'd pick Zaleski, but as going back to this is a betting podcast. If I had to bet, I'd bet Jingliang here at plus 245. You know, especially if it turns out to be a brawl. So I'm going to pick Jingliang because of the odds. Give me a pick 'em, I'd probably go to Zaleski, but plus 245 just seems a little bit crazy to me. I think there's maybe a little bit of recency bias here for Zaleski because he's coming off a couple of emphatic wins, but Millender, no grand game, you know. Luigi Vendramini, he doesn't belong in the UFC, and then he had the impressive Sean Strickland win, so I think maybe those couple of quick wins are carrying favour here with a betting line. Because Lee's not been KO'd, he's going to be hard to get out of there. I mean, when was he last? He was subbed by Nakamura, wasn't he? A fight that he was in control of, and then he got subbed. But Nakamura real sneaky with the back takes. I don't see that happening here. And I wouldn't be shocked if this goes to a decision either. Like I said, I think the value's kind of gone now with the line coming down, but I'm going to pick Jingliang. It's not a confident pick, but as a better, plus 250 on Jingliang Wei. I think the value is all with him. So we'll go with Jingliang Wei to win a competitive, hairy decision where both guys get hurt. Main event time, the women's strawweight title at £115. We've got defending champion Jéssica Andrade taking on China's own Weili Zhang. Real interesting fight, this one. I'm very much looking forward to it. Weili Zhang, I've done a lot of research on Weili before she made her UFC debut. I bet her, I think max bets against both Danielle Taylor and Jessica Aguilar. Swerved the Tisha Torres fight, didn't really have a read on that one. There's still some unknowns with Weili Zhang going into this fight. How does her cardio hold up over 5 rounds, especially when she's going to be put under the kind of pressure that Jéssica Andrade sets? We've never seen her go beyond 3, but she has looked fine in 3-round fights, albeit a lot lower pace than the pace that she's going to face against Andrade. How is she going to be on the bottom? With it's quite limited tape of her on the bottom. You can watch her fight with Bianca Sattelmeyer from a couple of years ago. She gets taken down early in that fight. She's on the bottom for a little while. I can't remember, does she get back to her feet or does she threaten with a submission? I can't remember if she gets back up, but she gets up relatively quickly. And then you can see her on the bottom against Tisha Torres for about the last minute of round 2. Doesn't really show anything off her back. She's against the cage, but there's no cage walking attempts. I don't know. Maybe she felt like she'd won the round and didn't need to do anything. I don't know. I don't really buy that, to be honest. I'm just not sure. But it's I'm just going off 1 minute of her on her back, so I don't want to kind of write her obituary if she gets put on her back, because Tisha didn't get anything going either, offensively. But I would have liked to have seen her kind of somehow try and make her way back to her feet, either cage walking or trying to push Torres off of her with her legs to create space. Just didn't really see anything. So there's a couple of unknowns there. How she is off her back. And what's the most interesting thing for me is how the physicality matches up, because this is going to be the strongest girl physically that Weili Zhang has ever faced. But on the flip side, it's going to be, I'm pretty sure, at 115. Obviously, Andrade has fought at 135. It's going to be the strongest girl that Andrade has faced. Now, I think the only way we can really get a read on how that holds up is from the Tisha Torres fight, a mutual opponent, and I think from looking at that fight, it's quite apparent that Andrade is the physically stronger lady. Tossed Tisha Torres around from the end of round 1 onwards, basically. We saw a few scrambles with Weili Zhang and Torres, and Zhang's takedowns aren't great. She kind of goes for head and arm throws. They're not the best takedowns. We saw her hit one on Torres. Torres managed to roll her over and get back to her feet, and then there was another scramble where Torres, I think, came out on top. And I mean, Torres managed to get top position towards the end of round 2. They was clinching against the fence. I think Torres was trying to take down, and Zhang tried to hop onto her back. She managed to do it in round 1, but she tried it again in round 2. But Torres saw it coming and managed to just pull back enough to put Zhang off, and Zhang ended up on her back. So I'm pretty confident in saying that Andrade is going to have the physicality advantage, but Zhang is going to be the strongest girl she's faced at 115. So is Zhang going to be able to make her work harder for those takedowns? Is she just going to be able to lift her up like she does everyone else and slam her down with a high crotch? Needs to be careful with giving her back with the high crotch takedowns as well. Zhang can take your back off of takedown attempts. She'd done it to Torres in round 1. She tried it again in round 2. That was when she ended up on the bottom. So Andrade does need to be careful with that. Tisha Torres managed to take Andrade's back off of one of her high crotch slam attempts. So that's something she has to be wary of. On the feet, I don't like Andrade's stand up. She's so wild, but it's just the pressure that just gets to everyone eventually. She leads with a left hook. It's just basics. You don't lead with left hooks. It's a very difficult punch to time naked. But it's just her pressure. She will just stalk you and follow you round. We've never seen Zhang have to deal with this type of pressure. I mean, there's a few glimpses. You can see highlights of the Marilla Santos fight from a couple of years ago. From the highlights available, when Santos kind of did pressure her, she didn't seem to like it. She seemed to get wobbled as well at one point in that fight. Tisha Torres had a little bit of success when she pushed forward, and Danielle Taylor cracked her big a couple of times. I think it was right at the end of round 1 and round 2. She landed massive right hands on Zhang. But, we're just picking up bits and pieces here. There's nothing concrete because we just haven't seen enough of how Zhang does deal with pressure, and how is she under a constant stream of Andrade isn't a massive puncher, but she obviously one punched Kowalczyk, but it's just accumulation. And I mean, I think what you're going to see is Andrade is going to come out. She's always, because she's not very good standing, it seems to take her like a round generally to work out how to pressure someone into the fence, because that's where all Andrade's takedowns come from. She doesn't hit open space takedowns, they're all against the fence. She loves that high crotch slam. She'll go to a single leg, try and pull you down that way. It kind of seems to take her like a round to work out how to trap you against the fence for her to start hitting her takedown. So I do on the feet think Zhang is probably a slightly better technician. Punches come a little bit straighter. She's quite kick heavy as well, Zhang. Over 50% of her strikes are with her legs. Now, I just don't think that's going to be enough to keep Andrade away from her though. The problem I've always found with women's MMA is there's hardly any evidence of women's leg kicks actually doing any damage. It just doesn't seem to happen. So I just can't see that limiting her footwork. I don't think I've seen Zhang hurt anyone with low kicks. She throws side kicks out there and so forth, but I just don't think that's going to be enough to keep Andrade off. I can see them too. When Andrade gets close, I can see a brawl ensuing inside. Andrade has always shown a really solid chin. Is Zhang the hardest hitter she's faced at 115? Possibly. So are those punches just going to bounce off? How is Zhang going to react to getting hit by Andrade? Because this is definitely going to be the hardest hitting woman she's faced. So there's just a lot of question marks here with Zhang. How does she deal with pressure? How does she deal with the power? How does her takedown defense hold up? How does she look off her back? And from the little bits of evidence we can take, you've got to say that Andrade is probably favoured in all them areas. Zhang's been she's been dropped in here pretty early. It's in China, so they want to have a Chinese fighter in the main event, and I just don't know. I'd like Zhang to have had a little bit more seasoning. I know she's had 20 fights, and I've seen people saying it's online, but come on, guys, look who she's faced. Outside the UFC, she faced absolutely no one, just journey women. She had a decent win over Emi Fujino a few years ago, who's a veteran on the Japanese circuit. She won that with a cut stoppage, but otherwise she just fought nobodies. Danielle Taylor, to be fair, Danielle Taylor's difficult to look good against, and she come away with a fairly comfortable decision win. Jéssica Aguilar is shot, but again, done what she needed to do. Got the finish in round 1, and then Tecia Torres is a decent fighter, but Tecia seems to be on the slide. We saw her fight the other week and she didn't look good, and it's kind of taken a bit of a shine off Zhang's win over Torres in what was a much more competitive fight than what the girl that Torres gave the girl who beat her the other week. It was, she was pretty much, I think she lost all 3 rounds, but I think she lost all 3 rounds to Zhang, but it's just the manner of how the rounds went. It wasn't really on the feet. She done more of her control on the ground against Torres, but the kind of way she tries to the other interesting dynamic here is how is Andrade going to be off of her back, because on the regional scene at least Zhang's a monster on top, but it hasn't transpired in the UFC. She got on top of Danielle Taylor in round 1, but Taylor got her off quickly, threatened with a heel hook. Jéssica Aguilar, we didn't see her on her back. She mounted Jéssica Aguilar actually, didn't she? And then transitioned to the triangle and went to her back. And then Tecia Torres, she was on top of a few times, but didn't really get anything going. So I don't think her, I think she's a powerful lady. She's the kind of lady, she gets into man, she's going to be dangerous, but I don't think her top game is as good as it was kind of led to believe from the regional scene, because you've got to remember the types of people she was facing. Andrade takedown defence has gotten a lot better, and so's her get up game. We saw Rose Namajunas knock her rocker with a knee. She dropped to her back. She was on her back for about 20 seconds, got up from underneath Rose. We saw Claudia Gadelha hit a nice double leg. I think it was in round 1, was it, against Andrade? And Andrade ever so briefly on her back, but just kind of straight away back to her feet. You can see she's got real urgency with getting back to her feet. So I have to favour Andrade. We are making some assumptions because, as I said, there's only pockets of information with regards to Zhang in relation to certain positions, but I just think the pressure Andrade brings, the power she brings, the takedown ability, the top game, I just think it's a big ask for Zhang, but she's the most physical girl in the division, so it's going to be really interesting to see how they do match up physically. And like I say, Andrade normally takes like a round to corral you into the fence, so the first round we might see it's pretty much a stand-up affair. Maybe Zhang edges it just with the cleaner shots, but the pattern with Andrade is that she eventually by round 2 works out how to start backing you into that fence and hitting those high crotch takedowns against the fence with that unbelievable power she has. We've even had Claudia Gadelha saying that she shouldn't be allowed to fight in the 115 division because she's too strong. And Claudia Gadelha has a physical advantage. Well, she did. I don't know. She doesn't really seem the same fighter now, post USADA, etc. But she was at one point before Andrade came to 115. She was probably the most physical girl in the division at one time. And so for her to be saying that just tells you how physical she must be. And Zhang, she is strong. She is physical. You can see it. But like I said, there was some scrambles with Tecia and so forth where she had a bit of success, and Andrade just ragdolled Tecia. So I've got to assume Andrade is the stronger girl here. So it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, I have to go with Andrade here. I think maybe a decision, or possibly even could force a late stoppage with that constant pressure that she sets. I think the line's fairly accurate where it is at the moment. been about minus 175 for a while now. It's up at minus 190 at the moment. Yeah, I've not really got too much of a problem with that. The fight goes to a decision. It's kind of even money. I wouldn't fancy that 5-round sweat with Andrade. She could, you know, that pace she sets it could wilt Zhang eventually. But we don't know. Zhang might be able to hang in there tough. If I think it's a big if, but if Andrade does have trouble getting the takedowns, or Zhang's footwork manages to evade the fence, and Andrade starts struggling with the takedowns, it could get interesting on the feet, because I don't like Andrade's stand up. It's kind of a means to an end for her to basically get you up against the fence and take you down. But it's going to be interesting to see how Zhang reacts to the power shots, because Andrade will land, but as I said, Zhang might be the hardest hitter she's faced at 115, so let's see how Andrade reacts to the shots that Zhang lands. But as I said, over 50% of her strikes are kicks, which I think that kind of goes against her a bit. I just can't see her being able to keep the distance with the kicks. So I'm going to go with Andrade. I'll say decision, but possible late stoppage, but I think she retains her belt. So that wraps up this card, guys. Sorry, some of the fights I was basically non-committal on, but you know, I take this game seriously, and I know some fights there's no one risking money on it, so I'm not going to waste my time doing hours of research. If you didn't listen to the recap at the start, we are offering 20% off annual memberships. It works out $350 for the year, or £280 for the year. £5 a week, guys, it works out, or £7 for every UFC if there's 40 UFCs throughout the year. Members that are betting £100 or $100 per unit are up £9,600 or $9,600 this year through the service. Premium Bets live betting service. DM me for how to pay at Pro MMA Betting, or send us an email through the website info@prommmabetting.com. I haven't coded the pay packages on the site for the 20% reduction, so just DM me or email us if you want to take advantage of that. But yeah, $350 or £280, and you know, you can make that money back in one event if your unit sizes are reasonable. Most of the guys that are with us are $50 to $100 or £50 to £100 per unit kind of bettors. You can have smaller stakes in that, you'll still recoup the money, guys. But just to give you an idea, if you are a £100 per unit better, you know, just over the last UFC and the Dana White Contender Series, you've basically near enough recouped that investment already. Hit the like button for us, please, guys. Hit the subscribe button, and as I said at the start of the broadcast, 12 UFCs in a row, so we're going to be going strong for the next 12 weeks. Good luck with your bets. I sent a bet out to members last night. Going to be sending another one out shortly. Hope you all cash those bets, and good luck, and I'll be back next week. Cash 'em, don't trash 'em.